You're listening to Kayak Flyer with your host, Sean. Tonight, we're brought to you by Tennessee Trailers, OutdoorAdventureTrailers.com. Simply the best way to get your kayak to and from the water. Bajuco Flats Fly Co. Simply the best custom-made fly rods on the market, always built to order just the way you want it. Find Bajuco Flats Fly Co. on Instagram and Facebook. StoneflyNets.com, made 100% in the great state of Arkansas with your choice of woods or burls. Stonefly nets can even be customized for that favorite fisher person in your life. Check out StoneflyNets.com for details. CutthroatFurledLeaders.com, the only leaders that I fish with. Cutthroat Furled Leaders are excellent for saltwater, freshwater, trout, bass, you name it, you can catch it with a Cutthroat Furled Leader. Head to CutthroatFurledLeaders.com, promo code KAYAK to save 15%. Fellers, I'm going to have to say we're going to have to grab some more sponsors on here so we can pay Adam to get him back on the show. He's MIA driving back from Texas today, so I'm not sure what all he's been up to, but hopefully he'll be back with us next week. In the meantime, we've got Justin back again from Rite Bobbins, and man, things have been crazy in the fly tying industry, and, you know, everybody's been at home. A lot of people are still at home, and everywhere I look, products are, you know, hard to find. How's business been with the bobbins, dude?
It's certainly been a different year for us. I took over the business from my dad, and he had owned it for 12 years. And I took it over about the day COVID hit. And here I am thinking, okay, this business has been in my family now for 12 years, and I'm going to sink it in about the first 3 months because now the fly shop was open. There's no business to, anywhere. But we landed on our feet. I guess the e-commerce kind of took over. Those first few months were pretty bleak. Fast forward to a year later, and we were the number one selling bobbin on the planet. Amazon.com took over, the e-commerce, like I said, like all the shops, everybody was doing business online, and our bobbin kind of rose to the top, and we were super thankful. So it all worked out, but it started out a little crazy.
You know, that's one of those things, you know, you've got a product, you know, I use the Rite Bobbins. I messed around trying to buy 2 or 3 different bobbins, and I saw your design. I liked it. And this has been years ago. Yeah. And I picked one up, and, you know, I pick up a couple here or there, and I've got one bobbin that I use for lead wire, and everything else that I'm tying with is a Rite bobbin. You know,
we love to hear it.
Yeah, it's my favorite. I mean, it really is. And there's a variety of them too for people that haven't tied on them, but I love going on Facebook and, you know, the Stupid Simple Fly page. Somebody will be like, what kind of bobbin should I get? And it's like, everybody's just, and you can tell everybody's just jumping out, get a Rite bobbin, bobbin, you know, and that's really worked out. And fly tying, you know, I've talked to so many people just trying to get stuff. There's, you know, a shortage.
Yeah.
Of getting raw materials, and then there's a massive run of people buying stuff. Tony from River Road, I mean, he's having the best year of his life, but it's almost too good. You know, there's more demand than there is able to get stuff out. And
no doubt about it.
Yeah. And that'll be the only thing that's really going to hurt it, because I see a lot of people staying with this.
Yeah, it's who knows when this pandemic's going to end, but it's been the biggest thing to happen to fly tying in my lifetime. People are stuck at home, and they're really doing it. Like, they're actually tying flies. They're not just talking about it. And we got really lucky in that, you know, our manufacturing is done right here in the U.S. And so we weren't reliant on, you know, foreigners, shipments from China and things like that to get our parts and things to us. We were able to do it in-house and keep right on a rolling. Super fortunate, though. We were really lucky being able to stay ahead of it and keep up with the demand. Our sales were higher than we've ever seen.
Yeah, and I noticed, our movie theaters opened back up in the spring, because my son really wanted to go see the Godzilla versus King Kong movie. And I thought, well, I'll go ahead and the theaters had just opened back up. I thought, well, I'll take it middle of the day, it'll be fine. And we went, and we were basically the only two in the theater, because people just weren't getting back out and going to the movies. And
Right.
you drive by the movie theater, and there's cars there, but it's nothing like it used to be. And I'm really thinking that a lot of people who've purchased kayaks, who have purchased fly rods, who have started tying, I really think that a lot of them are going to stick with it.
Yeah.
Now, last year, this time, I would have said no, and I made jokes about, you want a kayak, just wait till next summer. You'll be able to buy them used online for half the price. But that's not the case. They're still a hot
Yeah.
commodity, fishing
Yeah.
kayaks.
For sure. Yeah, I think this was a good excuse for the nation to take a little breather, get outside. The honeydew list was getting chipped away at around the house. It did change a lot of lives. Changed everybody's life. Who am I kidding? Yeah, I mean, the way that we operate on our day to day basis. I had a girlfriend who was working from home. Uh, I was doing my best to not drive her totally crazy. It was an incredible year for outdoor sports. We weren't real sure what our guiding season was going to look like here in Bozeman either. Um, the for April, March, April, May were all cancellations. But by the time the season really kind of got into the swing of it, around June, mid June, um, people were finding a way. The RV campers were able to kind of travel in their own
Hmm.
little bubble, and they chipped in and they were hiring guides, and our we had a really good season because of it. Like I
Yeah,
said, they were tying flies in their little RVs too. It was crazy.
I don't think there's an RV big enough for all my fly tying supplies.
Yeah, I understand that. Not that anybody would want to
No,
travel with me and feathers and fur and hooks and stuff spilling all over the way I tie anyway.
yeah, exactly. Well, I keep a squirrel trap in my yard, and
Oh, there you go.
so I catch the squirrels and then I shave them for the dubbing, and then I let them go again. And so I've got nothing but bald squirrels running around, you know.
I like that.
So yeah, so be fair warned when you walk in. If you've got nice hair, it's going to
Yeah,
go on a fly.
anything's fair game, right?
Yeah, and I want to talk to you a little bit about the guide service. I was in Cotter this past weekend. Didn't get a guide. Wound up fishing. We rented a place that had lake access and so or river access, and so it was funny. I was standing there fishing, and the drift boats were coming down, casting towards me. We were casting at each other,
Yeah,
trying not to tangle up our lines.
yeah.
But I saw more boats on the river Saturday and Sunday than I think I ever have down there, and I've been going there for 4 years, I think, on a regular basis. Basically the same weekend every year.
Yeah.
And it was just unreal the number of boats out there. And I know one guide personally down there, and he can't. I mean, he's booked for months in advance, and
Mm-hmm.
I that's a great thing. And you've got a guide service you're doing up there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy because in addition to having the biggest summer that I can remember, as far as guide trips, we've also got a huge drought going on. So we've got a surplus of customers and a shortage of water, and so that's been a challenge for us.
Yeah.
We're still fishing. We're all under what they call here in Montana the hoot owl regulations. So we're going early. We on the water, 6:30, 7:30 in the morning, and done by 2. They shut the fishing off at two
Okay.
o'clock. Heat of the day, get you out of there, give those fish a break. When that water or oxygen levels are low in the water, they don't want us in there fishing, and that makes sense. And we're all more than happy to comply.
Yeah. It protects you guys from getting too hot and protects the fish,
Yeah,
because that water might be cold, but they still get stressed.
For sure. Yeah, you can't fight them. 68 degrees is kind of the cutoff. Every responsible guide is out there running a thermometer, checking it twice, about 10:30, 11:30 in the morning. Uh, it's time to start getting a look at what that water's doing. And, we're running with, pinching the barbs, keep them in the net, don't let them out of water, fight them fast, release them fast, make it as painless as you can.
Yeah.
And then once that water gets too hot, you're done, just row out of there.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I've even noticed, because the Spring River, I have to drive through the Spring River to get to Cotter, and they had just dumped a couple thousand fish in it on Thursday, and I showed up on Friday, and the fish that we caught, I noticed that they were, and they're coming out of Mammoth Spring. I mean, that water is cold. It's real cold. But
Yeah.
I even noticed that they were a little bit more sluggish than what they
Yeah.
normally are,
Yeah.
especially if you go later in the year, earlier in the year.
Sure.
So that's always interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. We're definitely keeping an eye on our fisheries. It's important for the future, for all of us, that we, take it easy and fish it responsibly.
So what river are you mainly working with out there?
Well, I lost you there for a second, Sean.
What rivers are you guiding on, like the most? Like, is there one particular river that you're guiding on more than others, or?
The Madison River is dam controlled. The Upper Madison is coming out of the park, and it's a real high river. The Upper Madison's definitely getting a lot more pressure. We had some rains come through, which we badly needed, uh, and so that was good for us because it kind of cooled our rivers off, but it also muddied things up. So it kind of condensed all the pressure, especially all the float traffic, over the Upper Madison, which was tough for sure. Like it was a zoo up there for a few days, especially the first day that it rained. Everybody knew that that's where we were going to be, and yeah, shuttle
Yeah.
companies, lunches, all the support staff that kind of help the guide community do their job was a little overwhelmed, but we were able to kind of get through it. Now the Yellowstone's back in shape, and we can go more than one place. The Missouri River was kind of experiencing the same thing, but we're back in shape now, and so it's kind of business as usual. So everybody's happy.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's
Back to
always
fishing
interesting.
where we want to fish.
There's this kid. Yeah, this kid that I know. He's been on the podcast a couple times. He guides up in Alaska, and it's always interesting to hear him talk about the different rivers that he's guiding on, and it's a lot of places, like if you go to Cotter, you've got a handful of rivers. You've got the Little Red. You've got, I think the Kings might have some trout in it. Of course, the White River. But there are certain guides that do certain rivers. My buddy Ben, it's
Yeah,
almost all he does is the Little Red, and so it's interesting to see how different guides look at different rivers.
yeah. That's the nice thing about Bozeman. We've got. I mean, within a 2-hour circle of town, there's a lot of water you can hit here. And right now, like we're already getting up and going early, and so we like to keep it as close as we possibly can, just so we're not cutting into our fishing time. Because, like I said, under the Hoodaw regulations, Hoodaw rules were done at 2, and so how much are you willing? How much of your vacation time are you willing to wake up at early for and go fish? It makes for
Right,
an early
right.
morning.
Now, what does the dry weather change the flies that you're throwing this year compared to other years?
Yeah, it what it really did is it advanced everything. Like we still got all the same hatches that we always get. Um, it just everything was either 2 to 3 weeks prior to what we're used to seeing. Like our salmon flies happened early, and our golden stones, and all of our big bug cat. Everything was just happened sooner, rather than kind of stretching it out. Um, right now we're still on the prime of our dry fly season. We still got a bunch of hoppers happening, ants are happening, terrestrial season for sure. There's also a few bugs like a spruce moth and other little super secret stuff I'm not going to talk about.
Yeah, I fished a lot of hopper droppers this weekend, and the hopper was definitely what they were interested in.
Yeah,
The
that's
midges
fun.
and the nymphs, they weren't. Yeah, they weren't so much interested in those. We caught a couple on some zebra midges, but the majority of the fish were really eyeing that hopper. They were really liking it and taking them, and that was really cool.
Yeah,
And those when you get to fish with those terrestrials, and I like the foam hoppers myself. It's really cool. I mean, it's really neat because they're big enough you can see them. It's everything's right there. It's just a really nice day on the water.
absolutely. I mean that's as good as trout fishing gets, if you ask me. I mean, you're getting pretty good fish on big bugs on the top. I mean, that's why we do this, right? Like that's part of the fun of being a fly fisherman is getting to throw dry flies, and big, ugly, leggy, foamy hoppers are like the top of the food chain as far as I'm concerned. That's that's the best when they're able to get them on that.
I have been jealous of the guys east in the Mississippi that are having the giant cicada hatch.
Yeah, that's a bug we don't get. But it's been interesting to see the photos and read the articles and all the other hype that's gone around with that. Man, it sure looks pretty fun. I mean, I get the allure, that's for sure.
Yeah, you couldn't about a month ago. You couldn't look anywhere online without seeing cicada flies and
Yeah,
cicada patterns, and I mean everybody was going nuts. And I'm sitting here going, man, I'm not getting it this year.
yeah. Got to wait another 17 years or something like that, right?
I think it's not that far. I think it's like 2024 here when we'll get our next decent one,
Yeah,
but I'm going to be out hitting the smallmouth bass like crazy with those things because they're just going to gorge on them. It's
absolutely.
wild how, yeah. And it's absolutely wild. You could throw a cicada any other time and probably not get anything,
Oh
you
yeah,
know.
they're laughing at you. Yeah, most of the time. But I mean, I mean, just absolute biomass of bugs. Like the photos that I've
Yeah.
seen. They're picking them. Airplanes are picking them up on radar. Like the stories are just crazy. So yeah, if you're in that
Yeah.
little
It's
band of
absolutely
bugs,
insane.
good for them. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
jealous.
yeah, and the fish I mean, that's just that much biomass going in there. Those fish are going to be nice and healthy going into the winter. I mean, it's a great time to be a fisherman on the east side of the Mississippi. I know a
Yeah,
lot of guys are out there just throwing those things constantly and just loving every minute of it. Uh, but we throw we throw our smaller flies, the griffiths gnat, things like that, sulfur, mayflies, some caddis. It's not a we didn't have a big, like I said, we didn't have it over here, and even close on because it's pretty much a little bit over through Illinois and into Indiana. But um, just imagine being out there with those and not having to worry about trying to find your fly in the riffle because
yeah,
it's the
right.
size of a hot dog.
Yeah, right. It's like a cigar butt floating on the river.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there going, man, can't wait, can't wait. Um, So what else have you been up to? Have you caught anything decent other since you've been guiding or?
Oh, let's see. I got hooks into my first carp this year. That was a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. It was on a good friend of ours guided trip. It was his daughter that got hooks into this big carp. We fought it for like a mile and probably 25 minutes. Like a big golden carp looks an awful lot like a pretty
Mhm.
big brown trout when it's still under the water and you're just seeing flashes of it. So I'm rowing around. My heart's about ready to stop because I'm thinking I just broke the Montana State brown trout record. And yeah, it was pandemonium, man. I mean, a 10-12 pound carp on a 5 weight is there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
So we're fighting
Oh
this
yeah.
thing. It'd take big runs, get way deep on us, and finally we kind of just wrestled it to the side, and it ran out of gas, and we were able to net it. We got some pretty funny pictures out of the deal, but certainly a memory I'll never forget. And my angler, yeah, Georgia was pretty happy too. It was a
Good.
good fish.
But
That was,
that, I mean, carp fishing, yeah. And carp fishing's on the rise. I mean, I don't know anybody who's not targeting those, at least a couple trips a season. And there's some people I know that that's all they're doing anymore.
yeah. This was definitely, we were not targeting carp. This thing was way deep. It ate like a shiny little woolly bugger. And I mean, that thing could pull like a tractor, man. I mean, it took forever to fight it, which was a good time.
Yeah.
I know guys will fight them or target them like in the shallows when they're eating, things that trout eat, hoppers, and
Hmm.
it's pretty fun because it's sight fishing in like knee deep water. A lot of times, like
Yeah.
they can exist on like next to nothing for oxygen. So, but they're super spooky and a formidable fish to catch for sure. Like they're everything a trout angler wants. Like they're cool fish to
Yeah. And
target.
I've heard a lot of people, they compare them to how you're casting for redfish. If you see it feeding in a direction, you want to hit at a 45-degree intercept point, and, guys will go through and, there's the flies, even they'll work for smallmouth bass,
Yeah,
and they'll work for trout, but they're down on the bottom, and you just sort of pull them along. And one of my friends, he's been tying mulberry flies, which is like the easiest. It's just chenille,
yeah,
and he's going out where these mulberry bushes are, and he's like casting underneath there, and he's hooking up constantly. And it's wild that, a fish that, until recently, the only way you really messed with them around here was to bow fish for them, and you can't catch
yeah,
and release with a bow and arrow. And now to see that they have an intrinsic value, and to see people moving over to actually using them for a game fish, it really is neat. If you want to bow fish around here, and I'm sure the Missouri River is the same way up to certain points, but those big head carp, those are the ones you bow fish.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
yeah. We had a boy in the neighboring town get a 125-pound big head the other day.
125 pounds.
125 pound. It was bigger than he was.
Yeah, good for
Yeah.
him, man. Holy
Yeah.
smokes!
Yeah.
Wow, it's like a
Yeah.
hippopotamus, man. Unbelievable.
But yeah. Now, if you could figure out a way to catch those on the fly rod.
It's a good thing to be able to target in a drought year that we're having here. Like they totally tolerate the heat,
Yeah.
shallow water, low oxygen, whatever. Like that doesn't bother them one bit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I mean, if
so
they,
yeah, I mean the hotter the weather, the better for them, right? It's
yeah,
the
if
exact
they're in
opposite
the
case for
Mississippi
trout.
River,
Yeah, right. Not a whole lot of oxygen rolling through there. And yeah,
no,
August.
there's a lot of dead bodies,
Yeah, yeah. In August, yeah, that water's got to be 80, right?
Oh, it's nasty. It's dirty, and it's just, oh, yeah. I mean, it's, by the time it gets to us, it's gone through so many different cities.
Yeah,
It's, oh, and once it gets below St. Louis, forget about it. And Memphis, oh,
yeah,
oh, you get down there to Louisiana, and you look at that, and it's just a rolling mud puddle, and it's like, oh.
yeah.
But if those fish can live in that, they can live, you know.
No, nothing they can't handle.
Yeah, exactly. They're like those little goldfish that come in the little jar. Yeah.
Total survivors.
Yeah. But, the grass carp and the common carp, man, I know so many people that are loving those, and the flies are really cool, and you can tie a wide variety of them. I've seen guys tie they call them corn flies. It's basically a piece of foam, yellow foam.
Yeah,
They tie it, look like a piece of corn, and they're catching them with it.
as a trout fisherman, it's hard for me to wrap my mind around something that's not alive. Like tying is it's like a piece of plant
Yeah,
is new for me.
yeah, yeah. But
Uh,
it's really cool.
It is. It's
So
a totally new way to fish. Like I said, I have to kind of reprogram myself from the way I have been fishing in order to target those carp. I haven't gone out and totally done it, like just had a strictly carp day just yet, but um, I'd love to do it, man. It looks pretty fun.
one of the things, and I think this is really important, especially as we're introducing new people into the sport. Not everybody has trout. My closest trout water is 2.5 hours away,
Right.
but I've got warm water and
Yeah.
I've got gar, and
Yeah.
you can catch gar on a fly rod. You need an 8 weight, but they're fun.
Yeah.
You've got carp, you've got, different types of bass, and getting some of these folks that think, oh, fly fishing trout, and
Right.
saying, no, you can catch a large assortment of fish on a fly. And I think that's going to do a lot for the industry as we start bringing new people in, because the last thing you want is you don't want to turn, the closest trout river you have that, is already crowded. You don't want to turn it into, a Walmart.
Yeah. Right. But no, you're right. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different. Panfish are super fun on a fly rod. You can go out and catch a zillion little bluegills. There's a ton of opportunities. It's just light tackle fishing, right? So there's nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, your imagination is the only limitation you've got as far as what you can go and target on these on a fly. So
Oh,
that's pretty cool.
a lot of times when it gets hot like this, I'll put two squirmy worms about 18 inches apart and use a 1 or 2 weight
There you go. Yeah.
for bluegill.
Yeah.
And then they start fighting with each other.
Fighting each
Yeah.
other. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Getting them
Yeah,
to
yeah, they're both
agree
trying
on
to
where they
swim
want to
different
go.
directions.
Right. Hard to land them both, I'll bet.
But I think when you're doing panfish, especially like little bluegill, perch, sunfish, those kind of things, the lighter the fly rods, you're having a great experience. You're still having a great fight.
Totally.
It's not like it's not like a 5 weight, but because you're actually getting to fight the fish a little bit, and they're super resilient and they don't mind the heat in those streams, and you can have a really good day and never catch a fish more than 6 inches long.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, that's the beauty of fly fishing. You can go down to a 3 weight, 2 weight, 1 weight, 0 weight, whatever it is you've got, and make those make those little fish feel important once in a while. That's a good
Oh
thing to
yeah.
do, and it's super fun. It's an awesome way to get young guys into it, young kids. I mean, they're having good success getting to build their skills as far as casting, fighting them, picking their own flies, tying their own knots. That's a huge developmental day for anglers of all levels.
Yeah.
And it's a fun way to do it. It's a good day outside. Everybody wins.
Yeah. And they're always biting, they're always hungry. They're the easiest fish to catch. My
Super
son
fun.
loves it. He absolutely loves going after those.
Yeah.
He'll be like, "What kind of fish where are we going fishing?" I'm like, "Well, there'll be bluegill." He's like, "All right," and he's all about just catching bluegill. He has nonstop action.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's I get that. I mean, it's tough being a kid. Around here we would be outside, and it's either like way too hot or way too cold. Dad's catching fish. I'm not having any fun, and
Mhm.
all I'm doing is tangling in trees or whatever. But you know, getting out where a young one can have some just get the repetitions in, right? Like you're going to get better quickly if you
Yeah.
have the place to get the repetitions and repetitions on everything. Repetitions on your casting, repetitions on your knots, repetitions on fighting fish, landing fish, the whole works. That's how you progress at anything, not just angling. Um, So yeah, it is important to get out there. I mean, a little success goes a long ways too. I mean, if you're out there, freezing to death in the outdoors and not having any fun and not catching any fish, that's a good way to never
Uh,
get your kid back into uh, this hobby, right?
yeah. It's the same with new fly tires too.
Yeah,
Panfish, it's a great way if they're new even if they're not new to fly fishing, panfish flies are a great way to learn the fundamentals of tying.
absolutely.
They're not overly complicated, so it's a really a great way to do it.
Right. You don't have to spend 45 minutes and then hang one in the tree or in the bottom of the river and cry yourself to sleep at night, right? Like you can
Yeah,
make another one.
and I'm gonna tell you, there have been I started I broke down I did it I finally broke down started tying trout flies because I've never tied anything on anything smaller than a number two hook. You know,
That's
I
awesome.
mean,
That's
I'm,
awesome.
I'm, I'm a big fly guy, and
Yeah.
I'm down to tying an 18. And let me tell you what, I'm wearing like the cheater glasses that are thicker than Coke bottles, so I
Yeah.
can see them. But it's a challenge and it's new. And well, I quit tying flies whenever I hadn't tied very long, and I just kept getting so frustrated trying to tie renegades and elk hair caddis, and I'm like, I can't even see what I'm doing. And I finally got back
Yeah.
into it to tie big streamers for warm water. And again, it's repetition. And anybody who's going to start tying flies, man, start with those big flies.
Yeah.
They're easier to tie, and then you can work your way down.
Yeah. It's a lot easier to scale them down once you can tie them on a big hook. Yeah. Like the Colorado guys are like rolling their eyes at us right now. I know we do a show in Denver, and all those guys ever throw are the like a 18's a huge fly for those guys. I mean, they're like 22s,
Yeah,
26s, and I just am like, oh, God bless you, man. I don't know how you do it. That's what it takes to get it done, and
yeah,
and so they get other guys that going the opposite way, tying bass poppers on a number two, tying other stuff, chasing other stuff, uh, for just that reason. I can't blame them. I think that would be hard for me to keep up with that schedule if all I was doing is drifting two micro bugs under an indicator. I think I'd lose my mind.
yeah. Yeah, I don't and I know some people will get mad when they hear me say this, and that's fine. It's my show. Um, I the idea of floating something under an indicator, a hopper dropper, at least you have a little bit of self decency in saying you've got two flies.
Yeah,
But if the indicator fishing, you need it sometimes, and I've done it. But that just doesn't. That's not my day. Is just throwing and watching the indicator go up and down. That's not what I get out there for.
right. Everybody is going to target their own fishery the way that you have to target it, right? I
Right.
mean, and whatever it does to whatever it takes to get them. But holy smokes, yeah! Like there's I'm rounding out a little bit as an angler, being here in Bozeman. Trout, we were kind of a one trick pony out here. You can chase them in different ways, uh, but trout are going to eat trout stuff, so you got to give them what they're going to eat. We just don't have the opportunities, like walleye. Yeah, I'm kind of the opposite. Like getting to walleyes, northerns, bass is probably a 2 hour drive for me from here. So, yeah, we're
Yeah.
right in the heart of trout country, and so I, chase what you can get in a day's drive, right?
Right.
But
Yeah, and I think that's ideal. I hate it when people think that if you're fly fishing, you have to be fishing for trout.
right, right,
Because if you don't have trout by you, fish for what you've got. If you've got trout by you, hey man, fish for them.
yeah, yeah,
If you want to go on a guided trout trip, go. They're beautiful fish. I'm not knocking them, but fish what you've got. And I think that's something that if we're going to sustain the industry, the new people that we brought in, I think that's one of the things that we need to look at. Um,
absolutely.
yeah, that is. So, what's your favorite bobbin to use when you're tying flies? Do you use like any of those fancy ones that you got to reef thread the spool of thread onto, or
Oh, I thought you'd never ask. Honestly, the tried and true, the Rite Bobbin standard is always. I mean, it's been around for over 30 years now, and still my number one.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I'll tell you what, I've been tying with nano silk lately, and when I strop to these smaller flies, and
yeah,
one of the guy that the fly shop that I go through, he was like, "Now he's like, be careful with your ceramic, tips." So I've got a couple of extra half hitches now laying around. That's what I run my nano silk through, and when we're talking about threads, it is the right bobbin is extremely important, so you don't break the thread, so you don't mess it up, but also understanding the type of thread and which bobbin to use, I think that's a highly underrated part of fly tying.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that's yeah. I mean, that's a sub skill of fly tying is understanding your tools. But just to back up, the nano silk won't mess up our bobbin one bit. Like
Okay.
you're good to go with our ceramic. The
Okay.
ceramic that we use is a zirconia ceramic, and that little piece of machinery or piece of ceramic. We hung our hat on that for a long time, and really still do. Um, it's the toughest ceramic in the world. It's the same stuff they make fine cutlery out of. Fake. Well, my fake front teeth here I knocked out playing hockey as a 40-year-old. Uh, yeah, shout out to the Bozeman Amateur Hockey Association. Fake hip joints, fake like all kinds of stuff. It's the most wear resistant ceramic in the world, and it's by far the most expensive component of our bobbin. Um, but those bobbins are meant to be used. So GSP, nano silk, whatever it
Yep.
is that you tie with, I mean they're tough. They're smooth as glass. I mean they come to us perfect almost every time. Like I mean the failure rate on our ceramics is like next to nothing. I mean it's like a fraction. It's amazing. The only time we ever get those back is a guy like drops it on the floor and rolls over it with his chair, or something catastrophic.
Yeah.
And nonetheless, I mean,
Right.
even in that case, like we stand behind those bobbins for life. I mean, whatever happens, we understand the life of a tool is a tough life. Like if you're using it, eventually it should wear out. We get that, and we'll stand behind it even then. Like we want these bobbins to be in your hands and your grandson's hands too. So we're more than happy if you bust a ceramic. We'll gladly help you out with another one.
Yeah. Well, I didn't. He didn't know which brand I was using, but he just said some. The ceramic bobbins, and I'm
Yeah,
sure there are bobbins out there that are ceramic that aren't as good a quality as yours.
there's definitely different brands of ceramic. Like I'm not going to name names, but there's different ceramics out there, and I'm sure they've got their upsides and downsides. But ours, uh, I mean, over the test of 30 years, like I said, the only time we've ever really gotten them back is something catastrophic happened. Like once in a while, a guy will jam one shut with like some wax thread. You just stick a hot needle through it, and you're back in action. But yeah,
Well,
we
I'll tell you
stand
what,
behind
you
them.
can trash any other company you want to on here because I reached out to them and they wouldn't come on the show. That's why I invited you back.
Happy to be here. But yeah, there's a little bit of. I mean, I've got some mutual respect for other bobbin makers, right? Yeah, it's a micro niche, right? Like we all know each other.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would never, I would never.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's something weird that I don't think I don't think a lot of people understand, and I know that there are companies out there that aren't like this. But Pablo at Bajuco Flats, Dave at Tennessee Trailers, Ethan at Stonefly Nets, the Cutthroat Leaders with Mike, all these guys that come on the podcast and whatnot. It's one of those things where you don't really, and I don't especially, I don't bring other people on that do something similar to those guys. Does that
Right.
make sense?
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people will, and and I don't like to do that. Um, so we have folks come back on to talk about again anything that we missed or something else, but it really does limit your guest population.
Yeah,
You know,
probably. Yeah.
Arc Fly Line, they sell tippet and fly line. Well, they also sell leader. Well, Travis is a great guy. I use his fly line, I use his tippet. I don't use his leader.
Yeah.
So when he comes on, we just don't mention the leader.
Right.
And he's
Right.
like, "Oh, I'm fine with that." And it's like, well, I don't
Yeah.
want to make, and it's a fine line. And a lot of people don't understand how the fishing industry and all industries really work like that.
The fly fishing industry is way too small a community to really get crossways with too many people.
Yeah.
Part of back up, and this is a recreation. It's a business for us, but it's for 98% of us. It's a recreation, right?
Hmm.
It's how I make my living. It's how people that are in the business make their living. Um, but when it comes right down to it, it's a recreation. Like this isn't Fords and Chevys. This, like we don't have to have bare knuckle boxing competition for space out there. I'm lucky. I've been around for a long time. I've been able to grow a good reputation within the industry, and I hope I've got a good reputation as an okay guy because we do know each other. We see each other at shows. We run into each other at industry events, and I do my best to try and stay neutral and stay positive and I understand that there's other bobbins out there that have got excellent qualities about them too, and I'm always looking to learn from other people and see like, okay, what does my bobbin have that theirs doesn't have? What does theirs have that mine doesn't have? How can we're constantly learning from each other, and seeing what's best.
Yeah.
The search for the perfect fly rod, the perfect drift boat, the perfect whatever will always be in the eye of the consumer and whatever works best for them. And so
Yeah.
whatever it is that you like, I just hope that I got a model that'll fit that. So
Yeah. And it's funny though, because scissors don't change,
no.
scissors are scissors, the fly rod is, it may be a different material now, but it's essentially the same thing. Fly lines have come along, but again, we're still talking about the same basic style stuff. And it's sort of like hunting, you've got a rifle, well, there's a few differences in them, but they're all pretty well, you want to stay behind one end and, out of the way of the front of the other one, it's all primer, powder, and projectile. So it is. And I think a lot of people have a dream, of wanting to get into the industry because they love it. And I don't think a lot of people understand that it is a small group, but when you look at fly fishing as a whole, that's a small group
Mhm.
comparatively. I think I was told the other day there's a roughly 6.8 million fly fishermen in America, you know, and I'm sitting
Interesting.
here going, that's a that's a lot of money that those 6.8 are spending,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. No kidding. Yeah. No doubt about it. That's kind of the nice thing about fly fishing, and it is very consuming.
Mhm.
Any outdoorsman will tell you that. Uh, yeah, right. What's the old joke? Hunter was laying there on his deathbed, and his hunting buddies are hanging around him, and he's gonna go, right, like he's gonna die, and so he's telling his hunting buddies, please don't let my wife sell my guns for what I told her I paid for them, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, there's,
Yeah.
but it's accurate, right? Like hunters and fishermen and outdoorsmen
Well,
in
yeah.
general, there's always something a little bit new that we love to go and chase, right? And that's
Well,
kind
I'm
of
sitting here
the
trying to
fun of
figure
it,
out how I can convince my wife. Yeah. Yeah. I've got a 4-weight and I've got a 6-weight. I'm like, I need a 5-weight, but I know my wife isn't going to understand that. You
right?
know,
Right.
I've got a
They
1-weight, a
never do.
2-weight, a 4-weight. I'm
No
like,
kidding.
well, I really need a 3-weight and a 5-weight, honey.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
That's a tough
and
sell.
that's the thing. I know guys that have every rod and they fish one rod all the time,
Right. Yeah,
and
I'm guilty of that.
it's funny. It makes, yeah, yeah. It makes me giggle. I mean, I know I'm the same way. 95% of the time, I'm taking my 4-weight. If I know I'm going after small stuff, I'll take my 1-weight. But it's the 1 and 4 unless I'm going down for big trout or going to the salt. You
Yeah.
know, because that's just what the fisheries that I fish. Those are the ones that work the best in them. And it's like, yeah, I've got a 10-weight. I cast it, 4 days a year,
Yeah.
but by golly, I've got it.
Right.
I think that's interesting about fly fishermen and any sport. It's like guys with a deer rifle. They got $1,000 deer rifle that they fire one round through a year. Or
Yeah.
two. They sight it in with one, and they make sure it's still sighted in, and then they shoot the deer.
Exactly.
But
Exactly. Yeah. It's a special kind of crazy when you get to be a real dedicated outdoors person. Yeah. Whatever you think it is mentally that's going to give you the edge
yeah,
yeah, is I mean, and I get
well,
that. I'm guilty of that too.
we talk a lot about confidence flies.
No doubt.
I tie. I don't know how many different patterns I tie, and I only fish like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Because those are the flies that I feel comfortable with, and it's sort of like that with a lot of stuff. Oh, I'm going to grab this, I'm going to pick it up here at the fly shop, I'm going to use it, and then it's like it just doesn't feel as good as what you're. It may work better, but it's what feels good to you.
Yeah, oh yeah, having a little bit of faith in your fly, a little bit of faith in your gear, whatever it takes. There's a ton of mental aspect to this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And superstition and whatever it is that like makes us make our decisions in the fashion that we make our decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Justin, we're running up on the time limit here. Before we get out of here, go ahead and plug everything and everywhere. I know you said the Rite Bobbins are on Amazon like crazy. Dooley's Fly Fishing, Dooley'sFlyFishing.com has your bobbins. You can save 15% with promo kayak if you get a hold of Nick and go through there. You can just put the promo code in. What all else? Is there other places that, because I don't think you sell directly, do you?
We do. We actually, yeah.
Okay.
Ritebobbin.com is going gangbusters right now. Yeah. I'm like the upshot to being off the water early is I still get plenty of time to get bobbins out same day. So, yeah, get your orders in. We've got everything you need as far as 5 models of bobbins for whatever your tying needs are. Yeah, it's right in the middle of fishing season, so there's not a lot of tying going on right now. In some instances, but it's a good time to get your bobbins, get your kit ready for fall and winter, and the remainder of this summer. Still a lot of great fishing opportunities, and that means tying opportunities too. So
Yeah, and nothing beats, letting your significant other or your kids know, for Christmas, hey, grab me a couple more Rite Bobbins.
there you go.
That's as always. I've never known a fly tyer who had too many bobbins.
No such thing,
That's,
right?
yeah, it just doesn't happen. So, when you're shopping for Christmas, and I'm trying to do this year, I want to make sure that I get it done in time. I want to just go through and talk about the guests that have been on the show with Adam. Just go through the guest list and talk about some of the folks that we've had on, and sort of feature some of the stuff, and sort of put it out there on my Instagram and stuff like that, where, for Christmas ideas, because my wife's always, well, what do you want for Christmas? And I'm like, I'm really easy to shop for. I mean, there's a fly store and there's a liquor store, and that's pretty well the only two you need to hit for me, you know?
Yeah.
So, and I think it's really good, especially for the significant other who doesn't fly fish, or if your significant other does fly fish and you're listening to the show, hey, go ahead and get a couple of Rite Bobbins now and save them back for the Christmas tree.
Yeah, it's a pretty decent price point, between 30 and $45, relatively affordable as far as gifts in this industry go. So, and it's something unique. If they don't have one, it's a good place to start. You'll change the way they think about tying.
Yeah, thread control is it's so much everything about the way it's put together, the quality that it's put together, the ease with which you can change the threads, the fact that your bobbin's not going to unspool, it's not going to be too tight, it's everything. I mean, it just works so well, and it's easier the way that you hold it. I know there are some other bobbins out there that are ergonomic. The right bobbin fits my hand the best. That's just how it is for me. It feels better in my hand. That's one of the reasons why I really like them. But definitely, if you haven't tried one out there, guys, or if your significant other hasn't tried one, go ahead and try one. Pick one up. I think you'll really be impressed. At this point in time, I don't know many people that don't know your bobbin. I really don't. I can't. But again, we've got a bunch of new folks coming in, so that's one way to help them out. New fly tires especially.
That's great. Like you said, 6 million fly fishers out there in the United States alone. I mean, that's a pretty good audience. So, I mean, that's an incredible number. So, let's hope to get one a Rite Bobbin in everybody's hand before too long.
Yeah. And hey, you want to stay in the fly fishing industry, because I've never seen a fight break out on the stream like I have at a Little League ball game.
Yeah. No kidding. No kidding.
Oh, Justin, this has been awesome, man. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, hey, it's been a real treat to see you again, and good to catch up, and we'll do this again sometime.
Yeah, and does the guide service through Rite Bobbin too online?
I will set up a link on I'm working on a website right now. But yeah, I'll have a connection to my guide service as soon as the new link is up, and I'm hoping in the next month or two here. So,
I'll just put your personal cell phone in post production. How's that?
That'll work. I mean, if they need to get a hold of me,
people can just call you randomly whenever,
any time of the day or night. Anytime. We're hardly getting any sleep as it is. So yeah, might as well cut that down to 0 sleep.
All right, if you've made it through the show this far, you deserve a reward. Anybody that lives in the U.S., Puerto Rico, Alaska, as long as I'm not getting dinged with some crazy shipping charge like the crazy Canuck did to me, if you're listening to this, leave us a message on Instagram. Leave us a message when we post this on Facebook. Leave us a message if you watch the video on YouTube. Shoot us a message at kayakflyerpodcast@gmail.com. Let us know if either you use a Rite Bobbin and which one you like, or what you think is the most interesting thing that makes you want to try a Rite Bobbin, and I will drop in a cutthroat furled leader in the mail to you. We'll take a random drawing of all the comments, and I'll drop in a mailing of a cutthroat furled leader for somebody so they can get something for free. So we'll do that, guys, and just keep on listening. We are booked up for the next couple of weeks, and then we're going to be looking for guests. So if you have somebody you'd like to hear, I remember you guys asked for Drew Gregory. It took us a little while, but we got him. But just let us know who you'd want to hear on here, and we'll go ahead and get them booked. So for Kayak Flyer, I'm Sean. Justin, thanks again, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sean. It's been a treat.
Talk soon. Everybody, have a good day.